I'm not gonna lie, this video might get weird. Hello and welcome back to the channel. So yeah, this one is going to be a weird one because I'm trying out something that is inherently a little bit weird. So for a little bit of background, I love making artwork on black paper. You can see a few of them here. I don't know why, there's something really fun about using black paper to then create artwork on top of it. It forces your brain to think in a slightly different way. So for quite a while, I've wanted to try this black watercolour paper. Now, watercolours are a very translucent medium. You're using white paper to kind of bring the light into what you're doing. Now, you're tinting it with the different paints. So I'm kind of intrigued by black watercolour paper, and I've been intrigued for a while, and I think I have in my brain the reason why this might exist. But I want to try some other stuff first before I come to my kind of preconceived conclusion. So I have down here a whole bunch of different watercolour supplies. I've got different pans from different brands, I've got tubes, I've got all sorts in here. So I want to try these out, as well as down here some watercolour pencils. I've got some other watercolour pencils over here. So we're going to be doing quite a bit of swatching with this first, just to really test out what can you do with black watercolour paper. Then I'm going to show you what I think black watercolour paper is used for, and I'm going to create, hopefully, a nice piece of artwork towards the end. But first things first, let's get set up and let's get some swatching done, and I'll show you some of the paint supplies that I've got over here. Okay, that took a little bit of jiggling around, but I think we're in a good place now. So I decided when I would go to review black watercolour paper that it would be Frisk paper. I've had the best experience with Frisk papers. In fact, I use Frisk black paper just for art. So I thought the watercolour paper hopefully will be just as good as the black cartridge paper. So let's have a little look at the paper itself. It is lightly textured. It's a good thickness. It's 320 GSM, there are 12 sheets in this pad as well. And yeah, slightly rough, so you can hear that there, listen. Yeah, this is going to be fun to work with. But, as I said, it is a watercolour paper. So over here, I have got a tub of watercolours. So I have got, for instance, tinted charcoal. Don't think that's going to do a huge amount. I've got a few Derwents in here, actually. What else have we got? Pastel shades. There we go. We've also got Graphy tints. There we are. I've got some Inktense sticks. I've got Vivivas. I have got these. The Artistro. This is a 48 colour set. So we have all of those colours to play with. I've also got some peerless colour sheets here as well. There's also some shimmer pearlescence, some tube paints. I've also got over here are with some Stabilo Woody 3-in-1s and Stabilo Aquacolor pencils. So this is going to be a lot of swatching, and honestly I don't want to bore you all with all of the swatching, so I'm going to go through and do some of it. Might do a little bit of a time lapse so you can see a little bit of it, but yeah, it's not going to be the whole amount. But I will come back and talk to you about some of the paints and how they worked with this paper. Okay, so that was a fun little bit of experimentation. We've got some interesting results from this as well. So, I'm going to say the more cost-effective paints, I don't want to say cheaper, but the more cost-effective paints definitely did better. And that, as you can see, is the Artistro set. So these paints are heavily pigmented, but they've got a very chalky binder in them, so they are very kind of opaque anyway. They do disperse quite nicely when you're using them as a watercolor, but they're almost a bit poster painter-ish. So I wasn't too surprised that that set actually gave a little bit of coverage, but that was literally, this is as saturated as I could do. Down here we have the same Artistro paint but watered out, and you can see it becomes translucent. It loses its opacity, and then it's just it's just like that. So the Viviva paint here you can barely see. The Jackmans, so these are the ones which are a shimmer paint, came up very nicely. Interesting that the shimmer paint on the Artistro also came up very nicely. The two that I was kind of surprised with on here was the graphite and the charcoal tint. So I can actually see the graphite tints here. I'm not sure how clear it is to you guys, but the charcoal tint, the grey and the white came out quite well. I can also see the black in there. The peerless watercolours and the De La Rowney tubes, very much like the Vivivas, you know, they're very translucent pigments and colours, and they just, yeah, they don't show up very well at all. Then we move down to this sheet, and you can see it's not for lack of pigment. This is just my cleaning rag, and it is absolutely covered in colour. Just don't come up on the black. Down here, the Stabilo Woody 3-in-1, that's these big chunky pencils down here, which I do really enjoy as a watercolour supply. Yeah, they go on the paper really well, but then as soon as you add water, disperses, you can't see it. Similarly for the Stabilo Aquacolor, so the pencils, really nice pigments just on there as a pencil, but as soon as you put the water on there, it becomes translucent. Interestingly, down here we have the Derwent pastel shades. So these are I would say semi-opaque paint. They're actually closer to what I think this paper is actually made for. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you slightly in suspense. I'm going to do a little bit of swatching in this space down here off screen. I'm going to let it fully dry. In fact, I may even leave it overnight. And then I'll come back to you and show you exactly what happens with what I think these supplies are actually supposed to be used for. It'll also give me time to, you know, clear up all this mess on my desk. But before we do that, did you know I have a goal this year to get to 10,000 subscribers on the channel? And it's so easy for you to get involved and to help and to join the Frogface family. All you have to do is see just down there, right down there, there's a subscribe button. Just click it. That's all. You know what? If you want to go the extra mile and really show people that you enjoyed the video, click the like button as well, and maybe they'll join us. You know, you help me, I help you. I do giveaways and tutorials. All you have to do is like and subscribe. It's a win-win situation. Anyway, that's given you enough time to click the button, so let's get back to the video. Welcome back, my friends. Yes, it is the next day. I have let this all fully dry, including the new swatches that I have done. So, let's see how this turned out. New swatches are just under here. If I pull this down, there we go. So this is not all of the colours of this supply, but it is a selection of them. And yeah, the results definitely speak for themselves. Any guesses what this supply might be? I'll give you a second to guess. Go on, what do you think this is? Yes, that's right. It is the Himi gouache. Although I'm guessing any gouache would work. These are just the ones that I had to hand. And yeah, what is gouache? Gouache is an opaque watercolour. And in fact, if you look on the description of the black watercolour paper from Frisk, it says down the bottom, extremely effective results with opaque, metallic and interference colours. We've definitely seen that with the metallics And interference are pretty much the same as metallics, just dual tones. And then, of course, gouache is an opaque watercolour. I said before that the Artistro ones, you know, they are quite opaque because they are a slightly more cost-effective brand. I think that's a nice way of saying it. But as soon as you start putting water in them, they kind of dilute out and you really can't see them. However, with the gouache underneath, we have diluted, and you can see, yes, it is still washed out a little bit. That's to be expected, it is a wash. But overall, actually, you are still getting the colour on the paper. So I think with black watercolour paper, it's a case of going in with washes to establish colour and then going in slightly thicker over the top with the opaque gouache and building up from there. So I am going to create a piece of artwork with the Himi gouache on black watercolour paper from Frisk, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do. So give me a couple of minutes. I'm just gonna go away and have a little bit of a think, have a little bit of a sketch and a doodle, and when we come back we'll have a time lapse of actually using gouache on the black watercolour paper, and let's just see how it goes. It's time for a lovely, relaxing time lapse. So I actually spent quite a lot of time on this one because I was really enjoying it, and that's becoming more and more frequent on this channel, that I'm enjoying the pieces that I'm doing, so I'm spending more time on them. Everywhere you see a black, like a fade to black in this and then come back up, that is where I have left the piece to dry, so that I'm not working wet in wet all the time. But to start off, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just putting down a load of washes, and found out with that burnt orange at the beginning that actually it takes quite a lot of water to water down these gouaches. So that's what I had to do, getting all of my pieces, and then it's just a case of pushing what I'm doing. So I start off very loose and very wet, and then gradually get tighter and tighter and more focused on the details, all the while pushing the light and the shade as I go in. But yeah, I'm just going to let you enjoy the lovely piece of classical music in the background, enjoy the artwork, and I'll be back right at the very end, as usual, to give my final thoughts. Well, there we go, guys. This is all now dry and just, I love the way, even when you've got a sheen on the paper, it just, I don't know, it makes it pop. This way I love doing art on black paper. It's so much fun. And I have to say, I'm a black watercolour convert. I was a little bit dubious going into this, but I had so much fun using this. Thank you, Frisk, for making this. As I say, this is not sponsored. I bought this out of my own money to try it, but Frisk is a company that I have used many times before, and they're always very good. So that's why I wanted to use those. So I can almost guarantee myself a good experience with it. But it just shows, doesn't it, the importance of swatching. Imagine if I had tried to do this with, for instance, the Artistro or the Viviva. It would have been an absolute nightmare. But instead I've used gouache, and this is the result that we've come up with, something that actually I am incredibly pleased with. I really love it. But then I've said before, I love doing wildlife art, and yeah, chameleons are just so cute and funny. But that is the end of today's video. So as always, I really hope you've enjoyed today's video, and until next time, goodbye.